Good morning, everyone. It's Doc Green, the Road Scholar, coming back at you today. Got some things to talk about. Not very important things, really, but I'm out here on the road in Indiana. Just got my load going from Fort Wayne down to South Carolina. Uh, Great day. Looks beautiful out here. Sun's coming up. Got enough hours. I'm ready to roll. But today's podcast isn't about that. About how great my job is and how everything's going real wonderful over here at Dart. And I'm not kidding you. It is great working here. These guys are keep me rolling, keep me paid, and always, if I don't like a dispatch, they get me up to another one. It's not that if I don't like it, if it doesn't work for me or something, or I have something else I need to get, done or need to run more miles or something, that these guys, they're on it. So big shout out to my Dart dispatch team and fleet managers. If you ever get to watch this video, I appreciate you. Um, Now, on to what I really want to talk about this morning. The other day, I gave y'all a podcast called Disgraceland. I didn't connect the links because I'm trying to still figure that part out. I'm hoping to get the links to these podcasts on here today. But there's a podcast I want to tell you about. It's called Tech Stuff by John Strickland. And guys, I know a lot of people go, "Oh, there's too much electronics." He doesn't just talk about electronics. He talks about anything tech. And when he says technical, he doesn't mean electrical. It could be anything. He'll talk about the evolution of the bicycles, why boats float. Now, a lot of the stuff is about electronics, but it isn't about stuff today. He's telling stories of how we got to where we are today. Like he'll go through the beginning of the microchip, and even before that, like all the way back to vacuum tubes. And he'll start off, well, this is how big it was, and this is the steps it took down to get to here. But he makes it entertaining. He tells some really bad jokes. I'm not gonna lie, his jokes are really bad, but he at least tries to make you laugh a little bit, while he's telling you stuff. Then he'll explain, like the history of it, why they had it, um, how we came to what we have today. Because a lot of us take a lot of this stuff for granted, but it's a lot of complicated steps when he gets this. And he explains that. He explains to why we think that there should be something that does this, but why it takes so long to get that. Great little video, great podcast. And he went over a four-part series on just the PlayStation, and it was so cool. He went everything from back at the very first uh, those old Pong video games. I think they were by Odyssey, and went all the way up. There's a whole game console just had one game on it, and he bought it, and then but he went from that all the way up to Atari, through Nintendo, all the way up to PlayStation, and he described the process of creating the PlayStation. I mean, it's a whole history. He doesn't just give you, well, we have a PlayStation that takes these games. These are great games, and let me tell you about the game. No, he actually goes into how, why, where we're at now, and where we're expected to be in the near future. It's crazy some of the stuff you can learn on there. And then, like when he starts talking about science and stuff, he doesn't just talk about tech stuff like electronics again. He talks about other types of tech like nanotubes and these space flights. And he talks a good one to listen to is about the Voyager space explorer satellites that we sent out. That is a really, really excellent one because you can hear how far, how fast they go. Y'all may not realize it, but they're gone past Jupiter, or they're past Pluto. Pluto's history. These things have been going for like since the 1970s, and they're still sending back data. It's crazy the amount of stuff. But anyway, he goes into that. It's a great, great podcast. So if you get time, you're driving down the road, you want to learn about some of the, so go through there, see if any titles catch you. Now you got to kind of watch because a lot of titles start off with tech stuff this, tech stuff that. So you kind of got to realize you got to brush past that part to get to what the title is about. But I've listened to some awesome. I've listened to some I can barely get through too, just because I've already driven it to play in loop. But anyway, so check out Tech Stuff by John Strickland. Really good one. Now something to watch at nighttime. Binge watching. Now the other day I talked about Podark, British-made film. Great to me. I love it. It may be a little bit slow for some of you. I'm not really into a lot of. My tastes have changed on television, but I'm not going to tell you, what's good and what's not good. I'll tell you what I watched and what I recommend, and I'm going to try to tell you how I think of it from a standpoint of not being just using my opinion about it. So here's another one I did not think I would like. I've never really cared for a lot of football sport movies. I just never have. I like watching a football game, every once in a while. I'm not a real big fan. I'm not a fan because a fan is short for fanatic, and I am not a fanatic over football. Like they're talking about, they may not play it this year, and I'm like, oh well, keep on, do my thing. Doesn't bother me at all. So baseball, same thing. All these other sports, same thing. I watch them if I happen to be sitting down there on. Okay, yeah, I know how they're played. I know this. I don't I don't get into the stats and all that. I did it one year when I was playing fantasy football, and I realized, yeah, I don't care. I really don't. So anyway, but to let you know, there's a show though that I started watching. I didn't really think I like it. Friday Night Lights, and I know a lot of you already seen like episodes of it. Y'all probably seen those series, whatever. But if you haven't, go back and check it out. It is about a lot more than now. They use football games to kind of push the point home. That the story is trying to make and stuff, but it has a lot better stories than just football in there. And you can take these life stories. If you can find something that motivates people, such as football motivates so many people, and it does motivate a lot of people, especially young people when they're in school and stuff. But it doesn't have to be football. But you can take the stories, learn from this, and it's really, really a great, great show. Um, I could tell it had a lot of Christian influence in it, which is to me, I could care less. I mean, show's a show. But some of their problems are solved unrealistically because of that. Well, I say unrealistically, but then I get look at a bunch of families I know that are really, really Christian involved and godly involved and stuff, and they seem not to have the same kind of problems that a lot of us have. So maybe it is realistically if you live in your life that way. I don't know. I'm not living my life completely that way. But anyway, still though, you see a lot of Christian influence in the show, but it's not shoving it down your throat. You see a lot of other reality checks in the show too. Like what teenagers go through, what the parents go through, dealing with the teenagers, what the community goes through, dealing with schools and the influx of problems and things. Now, some of their problems are exaggerated in West Texas because of the fanaticism of football, but it is problems that you can see in probably every school, and it shows how there are positive ways to deal with a lot of these problems. But anyway, great show. I went through the whole series. Didn't take me, I don't know, too long, but just thought I'd recommend that one out there. Friday Night Lights. If you've already seen it, they're great, and if you missed a few, go back and catch up. If you started watching and stopped, go back. It's a great show. I thought. Got to the last one. I would say I was a little disappointed by the way it ended. The series ended, but to be honest, there was really no other way to end the series. I mean, it's a football. It's not like they're gonna have a big shootout and everything's gonna go hunky dory and be great or whatever. At the end, it went out. It was very realistic. It wasn't no big grandeur type show or anything where the whole world watched. And they came out to the cameras and said goodbye to everyone like you see on some of these cheesy goodbye exits, from a lot of shows. But the way it ended was it was very realistic, very professionally done. I loved it. But anyway, great actors in it, a lot of humor in it. Uh, some of them were just stereotypical people, but they played the parts very well, and they get deep in emotions and way you think about your fellow man. You could really watch this show and kind of come out with a different thinking. All right, so that's my two recommendations. One is Tech Stuff by John Strickland, and you can catch that on any of your podcast platforms. You can catch it on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and so many others. My podcast is going to be starting up here pretty soon, so I hope some of you will tune into that and watch that. They'll only be coming out with like one episode every couple of weeks, just like the regular podcast, because it does take a lot of production time, as I'm finding out. But mine will be starting up pretty soon. TV show I recommend this week again. It's Friday Night Lights. Last TV show was Podark, and I hope some of you watched it. If you have, give me a comment below. Let me know what you thought about Podark, your own opinion of it. Oh boy, do I get COVID? Oh no. Anyway, so just kind of let you know down onto my thing about what's going on out here in the real world and what I'm seeing on social media. Everyone knows about Gerald Johnson by now. I think that's the name. I'll be honest with you, I'm so upset about that. I quit paying attention to the article and the what happened to him because it pissed me off so bad watching it that I didn't really I don't believe I got his name right, but I know it's Gerald something. But I try not, again, I'm trying my best not to get involved in political situations. And to me, this is not a political situation per se. Now, I know a lot of people have made it that way. A lot of people, well, it's because Trump's president. It's because this guy. Oh, look what they had. The Republicans are, but look, well, that city's got a Democratic mayor and a Democratic governor, and that's what happens. And no, and I hear a lot of people back the blue, back the blue. A lot of people kill the cops, kill the cops. And you see on the NWA painting on police cars, NWA, F the police, and all that. No, here's my problem. A lot of people go, I don't agree with the riots. I don't support the riots, but I understand where the people are coming from, and not just black people. When I say people in general, because there's a lot of white protesters that are with them. Now it did develop into riots, and people are going, well, see, it's the riots. I don't support rioting, but I will ask you this question, and you can comment below. And I'm not asking you to tell me, well, it's not right. Look at all the innocents. I know all that. I know what's wrong with rioting, but I'm going to ask you this one question. I want you to really seriously think about this one for a moment. What would you have done that the black community has not already done to confront the problem of police violence in their community? And I know a lot of people will say, well, we have police violence in white communities and a lot more white people shot. That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking to get it all political on that part. But if you got a problem with the riots, which I do have a problem with, I don't support it, but I understand it. I wouldn't go out here and join it, but I do understand why these people are so frustrated at this particular time and point where they can't they can't they exploded. You kept the pot simmering for so long that the gas is built up and the kettle finally exploded, and no one took the lid off to investigate what happened beforehand. I had to go back because and look at some of the Kaepernick on his knee and stuff, and I had to relook at that. And go, you know what? If I'd listened to that man on his knee, got down on his knee, and pleaded with us to listen, then this other man would not have probably may not have died with a knee in the back of his neck. I look at that. I feel bad because I thought things were better than they were back in the Rodney King days, and I've seen a lot of police things that they put on here where, people, the media, because the media is going to always propagate whatever they think will sell. So when I say they put this stuff on here to incite us, that's exactly what it's there to do. Incite you to read about it, get mad, then you want to know more about it, you go to their page, and so that's what media is doing. But when I see how much violence is actually happening out here in the black community from the police, and it keeps continuing, and like in the past, I kind of go, well, let's look at the whole video, and it may have had something to do with this, or may have had something to do with that, and I'm trying. I guess I was trying to justify because I don't want to believe our law enforcement is that corrupt and everything, and back each other. And I've always known they had each other's back, but I didn't want to believe it was to that extent of another man's life, and it couldn't be widespread. But as it's happening more and more and more, and then I found out really it's not happening anymore. The numbers aren't really going up, but they're damn sure not going down, and that's the worst part. Then I have to sit back and I watch the video like this, and I realize, okay, I've made excuses for too long. Me personally, I did for years. I've been making excuses for the police, and I can no longer put I back the police. I'll back the blue. I don't. I back the law, and I back justice. And if the police, like they said, like one guy put on my Facebook page, well, don't condemn a million good ones for what one bad one did. I'm not. I'm condemning the million that you say are good for not stopping the one that was bad. Do you understand what I'm saying? Until the police forces start turning each other in and start reporting the minor infractions, then we're going to keep having the major ones. You see what I'm saying? So with the police, when that's something that needs to be done in police. But my question to you today is, if you have a problem with the riots, even if you don't, even if you agree with the riots, here's my question: what would you do that the black community hasn't already done to address this problem? Because a lot of people go, well, there's other ways of handling it besides rioting. Good. Tell me how. Tell me what you would have done that they haven't already done that has obviously not solved this problem. Anyway, that's a good question for you guys. Leave a comment below. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one.